Highguard is the newest hero shooter on the market, and it has already failed spectacularly with 10,000 negative reviews on Steam already. This is a game that was produced by Wildlight Entertainment, which has some industry veterans, including former developers from Respawn Entertainment, who of course worked on Apex Legends and Titanfall. So first, let's go over what is Highguard, and then we'll talk about why everyone is hating it so much. It was first announced with a gameplay trailer during the Game Awards on December 9th, 2025. It was the final game showed at the Game Awards, and frankly, everyone was already hating on it, okay? It looked very generic and bland, and because it took the last spot of the night, people were expecting something spectacular, and it really just failed to deliver, and that put a bad taste in everyone's mouth. After that, we didn't really hear much about the game at all until its underwhelming release today. There was almost no news or hype surrounding the game before it launched, almost like the developers were ashamed to launch the game. Okay, but what is Highguard? What do you actually do in the game? So Highguard is a hero shooter, battle royale, siege-esque game with CSGO guns. I don't know. It's really hard to explain, frankly, because the game, as we will come to learn, is sort of going with a kitchen sink approach. Any mechanic you can think of has been tossed into the game. The general gameplay loop of the game is that you pick a hero, you pick a base to defend, then you spawn in on a wider map where your base gets dropped at one end and the enemy team's base gets dropped at another. After a short setup phase, you go and like defend walls like you would in Rainbow Six Siege, where you can put up reinforcements. After you do that, you will go around the map and mine crystals to get resources, like a resource, like a currency to buy stuff, as well as open chest, which will give you loot like a battle royale, for example, armor, helmets, guns, things like that. Then your bases are protected by a shield this entire time, right? So eventually, after I think it's about 2 minutes, a sword will spawn on the map, okay? And you have to fight over this sword. Whoever gets this sword can then take it to the enemy base, almost like opposite capture the flag, and they can sort of plug it into the shield, and a big battering ram will spawn in, okay? And it's called a raid. The battering ram will knock down the shield, and then your job is to siege the base. Each base has 2 generators and a core. If you can put a bomb, yes, you go like search and destroy style, put a bomb on the base, you can blow up these generators, and if you blow up 2 of them, you win the game. If you blow up the core, you win the game right then and there. But of course, it's harder to get to the core. While raiding an enemy base or having your own base raided, the team that is doing the raiding has a certain number of lives that they can expend, and when they run out of them, the raid will end. This whole time, there's also a shop that you can visit to get different upgrades and get shields and things like that. And on top of that, there's also care packages that drop in. The maps are huge, and you have a horse to ride around on the entire time that you can jump on at any time. And listen, if it sounds like a lot, that's because it is. But now that you know what the game is, why is everybody hating on it so much? It doesn't sound that bad, right? How bad could it possibly be? Well, first of all, there is a huge problem with performance in the game. It does not run well. I personally don't have the best computer, and it's still running decently on my system, so I'm not sure where these problems are coming in for people. I personally am getting 60 FPS, which to be fair is not great for 2026, but it's a smooth 60 FPS. I'm not really sure what everybody's talking about with the performance, but then again, I don't have the best computer, so I really can't judge. I just know everybody in the Steam reviews is complaining about performance. Next up, we have performance issues with the servers. So a ton of people are talking about getting disconnected mid-match. This happened to me one time, and I got a penalty for it. After you get 3 penalties, you get locked out of playing for a little bit. I thankfully have not been disconnected more than the one time, but it did happen to me. Next up, this is something I did not experience, but a ton of people are talking about long queue times. I was finding games basically instantly, but lots of people are reporting issues with actually getting into a game. And then when it comes to the performance, people are talking about the game being blurry, and it is. I'm not sure what is causing this, but even on medium settings, which I still get a 60 FPS on medium settings, everything in the map is just blurry. People sort of stick out like sore thumbs, which makes them very easy to shoot at and see, but all of the surrounding environment is just blurry. I mean, you can just see it in this footage. These are straight medium settings, the default for whatever it gives you for medium. And as you can see, very blurry. But let's go ahead and go over the actual gameplay, right? Why is everyone so upset with the game? Okay, maybe we could excuse bad performance and long queue times and disconnections if the gameplay loop was awesome. So what's up with the actual gameplay? People are saying the heroes feel very generic, and I can agree with this 100%. I think almost none of them have really stuck in my mind. They have okay abilities. They feel like they've been ripped from all sorts of other games. None of them feel truly unique, but overall, I mean, it's a hero shooter. We've seen a lot of these at this point, so it's hard to come up with unique kits. But in general, I don't even think it's the abilities that people have a problem with. It's just the characters themselves. They're so bland and uninteresting. So we have a game that runs horribly and the heroes suck. What about the gunplay? Well, I can say the gunplay is okay. It feels pretty solid most of the time. The feedback is a little iffy. You know, some of the guns don't sound the best, but it feels smooth and fine to play. I never picked up a gun and was like, man, this just feels awful to handle. Okay, it is somewhat satisfying. Next up, we have a movement. So, I mean, you would expect the people behind Titanfall and Apex to have some insane movement in their game. And unfortunately, that just does not exist. There's a slide, there's a sprint, there's a jump, you can mantle. But most of your movement is really going to come down to how you use your mount, your horse, okay? The maps are huge. They are absolutely massive to just have 3 people, which we will talk about next. The game is 3v3. This is something people have a huge problem with, and I would agree. But the maps are huge. You have to use your horse all the time to get around. Using your mount is 100% a part of the game, and you can be shot off of it, and it will put it on a small cooldown before you can jump back on it. So 3v3, right? These maps are massive, okay? And you only have 3 people on your team, and most of the time they're kind of split up into 2 lanes. So you often have one person going to the left to try and get a care package or get resources so you don't all hog the same battle royale-esque containers that you open up for loot. And then you have 2 people on the other side who are going to try and play the objective and get that sword that I talked about that will allow you to actually start a raid. I think that it is 3v3 simply because the cast is so small. There are only 8 heroes in the game, and frankly, it's just not enough to support a 5v5, especially if you were going to have unique heroes, which the game currently does. No 2 people can pick the same hero. I talked earlier about how you can reinforce walls, siege style, and while the destruction that exists in the game is somewhat interesting, you know, it's kind of fun to siege the base. I'll talk about that in a moment, but the reinforcing feels absolutely pointless. It feels more like the game should just reinforce the specific walls that would be likely to be reinforced, because you're going to reinforce the same walls every time anyway. The rooms that these generators sit in, the objectives the enemy would be attacking, are going to be set up the same way every time. You're probably going to want to reinforce those walls because, frankly, the buildings aren't so massive. You need to get creative with how you breach. You basically go up with your little axe and chop down the nearest wall to it and run in. So I think that part of the gameplay is completely pointless. And when we're talking about parts of the game that feel completely pointless, the game feels like they really did just throw everything into it. There are so many mechanics. I will just run through a list right now and you'll get the idea. So there's mounts, there's mining or resource gathering, there's there's a vendor that you buy from, there's siege style reinforcement, there's destructible walls, there's the raids, there's the sword that you run around with that's basically like a capture the flag in the opposite direction. There's lives, so whenever you are sieging, you're doing the raid, right? Your team has lives. There's the search and destroy element where you go in and plant a bomb on a site. And then there's also the guns. There's the loadouts. There's the battle royale-esque containers that you open up with stuff in them. There's different levels to your armor and weapons and things. So you're trying to get, you know, better armor and weapons through the shop and the battle royale containers. There's the care packages. There's the heroes with their unique abilities. And I think that's everything, but honestly, I'm probably missing something. You also have a grenade. I don't know, that felt like necessary to throw in there. So with all that said, there is just so much going on, and it really feels like the game would have benefited from cutting some of this stuff out. If this was an early access launch, I think everybody would feel a lot better about the game, right? Because in early access, it's kind of acceptable to have your game feel bloated with too many things. But this is the full release. It's got it's got monetization in it already. There's battle passes and 3 different currencies for you to buy skins and things like that. It's already monetized. It's ready to go, right? It really feels like somebody should have played this more and told them, hey, maybe we don't need, I don't know, to have such huge maps. Or if we're going to have such huge maps, maybe we could have more people on them. Or if we're not going to do any of that, maybe we could get rid of the battle royale element where we have to go pick up gear. Or if we're going to have gear that we have to pick up, why don't we start with a loadout? There are so many ways this game could be improved just by cutting some stuff out. It just has too much going on. And with that too much going on has created some very, very interesting gameplay scenarios where sometimes a game takes 25 minutes and sometimes it takes 6. The game can end as quickly as you spawn in, you collect your loot for 2 minutes, then you grab the sword, run to the enemy base, siege it, and blow up both generators, and the game is over. Other times I've gone in and we have to go back and forth where we attack their base 3 or 4 times to finally win. It just can feel like you never know how long a game of Highguard is going to take. So I've been saying a lot of negative stuff about Highguard. Is there any positives? Is there any reason you should even try this game? Well, if the heroes aren't fun, the gunplay is just okay, the movement is whatever, and you don't have a big enough team to really play with all of your friends, honestly, I can't tell you there's a whole lot of great reasons to play Highguard. However, I do think the sieging elements of this game are incredibly fun. The moments where somebody's running with the sword towards your base and you have to kill them before they can really, I don't know, stick it into your shield to blow it up or whatever, start the raid, those moments are really fun. Capture the flag is just fun. We all know that though. Then the individual raids themselves when you're attacking the enemy base or defending, that also feels pretty entertaining and fun. But there's all of this extra stuff that you do in between where you run around and mine crystals to buy stuff before you get to do any of these fun things. Lots of the game is spent where you don't actually see an enemy and you're kind of just waiting around for the sword to spawn in so you can go try and make something happen with it. I'll say the general gameplay loop is fun, but we need to cut some of this stuff out. Some of the mechanics need to go. I think the game is overly hated for sure, right? Is it amazing? No, certainly not. Is it trying to do too much while not doing anything super well? Absolutely. But are there some fun and interesting ideas here? 100%. This game is not as bad as everyone will tell you, and I think frankly you should just give it a shot. It will probably run like shit on your system, but you can give it a go and see if you like it. I don't think it's as bad as nearly everybody is saying. There is fun to be had, and I enjoyed playing it. Listen, when it comes to hero shooters, people talk about like there's so many to choose from, but realistically, we don't have that many to choose from anymore, okay? Paladins is dead. Marvel Rivals won't run on my PC, and Overwatch has been around for forever, and that's really all there is. I mean, you could talk about Valorant and Apex, but those games are very, very different. They're not the same team-based sort of fight that you would expect from something like Overwatch. We're looking for like a new game kind of like Overwatch that isn't Marvel Rivals, because if you don't love Marvel or your system can't handle it, there's really only Overwatch. So I was pretty excited for Highguard. However, it's definitely kind of disappointing. I'll be playing it more and seeing if there's, you know, a future to this game, but with 10,000 negative reviews day one, I mean, it's not looking good. I will say though, I didn't have any trouble getting into a match, and I did have to wait in a login queue when I started playing, and I started playing later in the day. So maybe there's some hope. I think with a little bit of cleanup or, I don't know, restraint from the dev team to take some of these mechanics out, there could be a really fun game here. But it is so far from being ready for a full release that I think they might have to do a 2.0 launch at some point. We're going to get another Overwatch 2, baby. That's what's going to happen. Thanks so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.